Hello and welcome to the 6 Plus show, a podcast for your wargaming and 40k needs. Hobby talk, tactics, tournament reports, lore and much more. We have it all. Please welcome your host for the evening, Tom.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and exalted 8-bound to that 6 Plus show. I am your host, Tom, and I am very excited because tonight I am joined by one of the current 40k greats, the one and only Stephen Box. How are you doing, Stephen?
How you doing, mate? Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, really excited for this. Been chatting about it for a little while, so really cool to get it into fruition. And today we're going to be talking about World Eaters and delving into the realm of melee combat and all of that kind of in-your-face sort of aggro action, which is something sort of, as a follower of your sort of successes in your list, is something I know you're a big fan of. So I'm really excited to hear how you've kind of made World Eaters sing since the new book came out. But before we get into that, I wanted to sort of offer condolences because obviously the news broke on April 1st that your longtime collaborator and friend of mine, Jake Harding, was leaving to found Team Handsome. And obviously I know that you must still be in a sort of grieving process with that. And I wondered how you've been getting on.
Sorry, who are you talking about? He's dead to me.
Oh yeah, I saw you'd erased him from all of the photos.
Don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I shouldn't have gone there. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was all so fresh.
Do you know what? I had so many. We actually had people believe that Jake would leave.
I know. I bet you did.
we had people ask Jake to join their team. You're like, honestly.
Oh no. Oh goodness.
Jake unfortunately is glued to me.
Yeah,
he's here right now. He's here. Jake, shut up! I've told you more than once. This is you've done your interview. This is mine. Okay, yeah. So anyway.
Oh man, no, it was great. It was a very good joke, and also I love the sort of the handsomest man in 40k running commentary that we have for Jake out there in the world. It's great. He's a good guy. Wonderful. Okay, well, I would say you're one of those guests that doesn't really need introduction, but I think it's still important to do it anyway. So do you want to tell people a little bit about who you are and what your background in 40k is, Stephen?
Yeah, I'd love to. So my name's Stephen Box and I run a YouTube channel called Vanguard Tactics, and we really specialize in promoting fair play and sportsmanship within the realm of competitive 40k. And what we really try to do is nurture a lifelong participation of the hobby. So we don't really care what kind of game system you play. If you're playing board games and you're playing strategy tabletop games, that's awesome. Just keep doing it. It's fantastic for your mental health. And that's essentially what we try to promote, is using this vehicle and tool of Warhammer to really help us all with our kind of ever-growing stressful jobs in day-to-day lives. But most importantly, when we play, to play that with dignity, to do the right thing. My background before this was, I suppose I was an athlete of sorts. I was okay. I was all right at doing and being an athlete. Yeah. I've got a few accolades. I've got a few trophies, a few international caps. And when I came into Warhammer, it was, I was like, I want to play a tournament. People were like spitting on me. Like, you are disgusting. You are cheesy. You want to go to a tournament. Oh, it's full of neckbeards. Win at all costs, tryhards, you name it. Like, ugh, gross. So I was like, hang on a minute, what's going on? Went to tournaments and I was like, I see what these people mean. Yeah, there's something going on here. Yeah, this is not cool. Whereas I was used to getting knocked over, on the hockey pitch or whatever, and then getting picked up by the person that took me down, shaking their hand at the end of the game. They got a yellow card, whatever. It was dealt with. You crack on, and it was all about you learning to lose with dignity, and also win with grace, and that's really, really important. But it was something in which, when I first came into the industry, was, I'm not going to lie, a little bit lackluster. And it's tried to be something that I've heavily tried to challenge. I've been quite outspoken on a few different topics. Not everyone likes it, I suppose. Some people really agree with me and some people certainly don't. I have just as much hate as I do positivity, I suppose, on some certain things, but you can't do much about it. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Keep, I suppose, being true to yourself.
you're one of those people that, yeah, exactly. You are true to yourself, and you're never afraid to say what you think, and you're never afraid to take a stand on things. And I think Vanguard really reflects that too, because as you say, it's 40k is sort of on its way to having something of a sporting dimension and culture, right? I guess that's what the event scene, the competitive scene is heading towards. But as you say, with that, sportsmanship needs to come with it, or it's not going to be a pleasant experience. And I think Vanguard are probably one of the most significant things to have happened to the game in terms of pushing that direction and trying to lead the way on that, but also about nurturing players, but also playing to the very best of your ability. And I think you guys do that super well. And as you say, if you have an opinion in this world, then some people are going to disagree with you. That's sort of the line of fire you have to get into with this stuff. But I think you and the guys do a great job, so you should be very proud of your achievements.
No, thank you very much, mate. Yeah, it means a lot. Yeah.
No, it's my pleasure. Wonderful. Okay. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Vanguard and all the things that you've got in the pipeline for 10th. Obviously a very exciting time, but we'll do that at the end of the show. So without further ado, we're going to get into sort of some of the violent, angry figures of 40k, the World Eaters, right? The Legion of Angron, the sort of most sort of aggressive and combat legion in the game. And obviously these guys have got a new book, which is going to sort of see them through to the end of 9th edition. Very snappy, exciting little book. And today we're going to think about sort of your own sort of history and relationship to the army, and then think a little bit about where they sit in the meta and what players, World Eaters players, and there are many, can do with this book to sort of make the absolute most out of it before 9th comes to an end. But let's start with you, Steve. What's the appeal of World Eaters to you? What does that army mean to you?
Well, I love Blood Angels.
I know you do.
I love Blood Angels. So when we were looking at the channel armies, and I was like, I probably should play a Chaos faction. Well, I'll play Blood Angels with a corn logo and a corn symbol.
It's so
That'll
up
do.
your street, isn't it? Yeah.
There is a bit more of a backstory to it than this.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate one day, some time ago, to get to see the miniatures when they were first, done, whatever.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at them and I was like, wow, these are amazing.
Mm.
And it was just something in which I was just like blown away by the kind of sculpts of the models.
Yeah.
The corn berserkers are incredible. My background was bodybuilding, so when I look at these guys with absolutely jacked arms, and then I see 8-bound with even real 3D delts, proper striations on their quads, I'm like, yeah, these guys see squat. These guys don't skip leg day. It's great. So when I first saw them, I just had to wait for a very long time before they were obviously released. Yeah. And I couldn't wait. So no matter what was going to happen, regardless of how good they are in the meta, actually I probably would have been put off them if they were too good, because I hate playing. I hate playing a meta army. I like to be a snowflake. I think they came out and everybody said they were a bit boring and a bit rubbish, but actually, no, I think they're all right, and I think they're in a nice little spot at the moment. So, yeah, for me, it's essentially the Chaos version of Blood Angels. They're also red. That makes my painting, because I only own 3 paints. It's Corn Red, Mephiston Red, and Wild Rider Red. So why I didn't need to buy any more. That was already done. So yeah, that's pretty much my first direction into World Eaters. Yeah,
fantastic. No, that's great. And as I say, you grabbed a couple of nice placings and results with them straight out the gate. So I remember, I can't remember where it was an RTT you went up to and took down with them pretty early doors, right? So I think they're an army that clearly connected with you, and as you say, the parallels to Blood Angels aren't lost to me. Yeah, there's pre-game move combat stuff. There's a lot of sort of movement and intervening shenanigans. I can see how it's a book that for a player with your skill set would really appeal, because you have to squeeze absolutely every inch of value out of movement and combat and trapping and all those sorts of things. Which is something you're obviously very famous for by this stage. So yeah, no, it makes complete sense to me, man. And as you say, if you have to pick a Chaos army, you might as well pick one that behaves a bit like one of your favorite Imperium armies, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Exactly
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about sort of where World Eaters sit, I guess, then in the sort of current game and current meta. What do you think their sort of role is? What do you think the sort of positives and the strengths for them are, and what are the potential challenges?
So I suppose straight off the bat, one of their strengths is that they get a high volume of attacks. High
Yes.
volume of attacks is always great in 40k. Just forcing your opponent to make saves is brilliant. So when you've got, a single model chucking out 5 attacks, somebody will fail some saves. A lot of their strength values start to pip at a certain place where you wound most things on 3s, which is really great. Whether it's vehicles, infantry, light vehicles, you've typically got a unit that can wound the target unit that they're best at. So go and wound on 3. And there's some really great ways to obviously buff the army up considerably to really maximize that efficiency. So if you're able to pinpoint this unit's going to be really efficient into that unit and you're able to get it there, then you're going to do the thing you want to do. If you don't do that, you're absolutely going to bounce. You're going to hit it so hard and it's not going to do anything and you're going to fall back over. So I think from that perspective, that's always great, that you really need to tee up these charges, make them work. So when they connect, they're absolutely fantastic. They've got some incredible stratagems, and I think we look at the book, you've got 2 ways to play the army, and I think there's an argument to play either. I've certainly mainly used one way, but I've certainly tried out the other as well, and I think both could be competitive in the right hands. So if we look at the most logical way to play the armies, where you get the option of Khorne Berserkers, so the kind of non-pure demon or demonic way, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the Red Angel, so not the Red Angels way. And you get a few different cool stratagems there. You get the heroic intervention of 6 inches, you get the fight on death, and they're obviously key things that a combat army really needs. You get the +1 damage stratagem, you get to do mortal wounds in addition. So those 4 stratagems alone are absolutely brilliant. They really are fun. They're fundamental to a great chaos, to a great combat army, sorry. And I would go as far to say, with those 4 stratagems, a fight on death, a heroic intervention, obviously you can interrupt anyway, and with the additional +1 damage and things, they're arguably the best combat army in the game. There's not many armies that can go toe-to-toe with them in combat. They either don't trade as efficiently, they just don't have the staying power to. They'll only ever be able to make 1 charge into a World Eater army otherwise, and even then they'll probably fight on death and kill you back. So it's a really nice sort of dynamic they have. The only other army that might be able to go toe to toe with them is Creations of Bile, because obviously they fight on death on a 4-up, so it depends on how hot their rolls are. But that being said, most other combat armies are probably going to struggle. In that kind of combat phase with them, as they should, because this is this one army's thing. So if there's an army pure combat, this is the one. So for me, that's their strengths. Their weaknesses obviously is failing charges. That's a bit of a problem. Getting shot, that's another one. However, one of their real strengths in their book is actually not in their book, but in their playstyle, is their secondary play. They've got 3, I'd say 2 great secondaries, 1 confusing secondary. I don't know if I think we're on the same page or not with the third one. That it's you need to anyway. So we'll go into those shortly. But
we'll come back to it. But absolutely.
Their ability to score is great. The fact that you can take a lot of objective secured models, which is kind of what you want. I always think when there's an army, when they've got good, when their troop units are some of their best units, you've got a good book.
Absolutely right.
Because you're not wasting points.
No, exactly, and I think that's a real strength. And I think the secondaries are, as I said, we'll come back to it, but they're fun and they're thematic, and it from the games I've witnessed with World Eaters so far, both players enjoy them. Right, they've got a good secondary game, they score well, but they're one of those armies that does exactly what you'd want it to do, and both players seem to have a great time whilst it's happening. And that's I think a really nice spot for a book to have landed. And that stratagem suite, as you say, it bodes really well for 10th, right? It's something to be really optimistic about, that you can have like quite a small bounded set of stratagems, but actually you just got all the good stuff, right? You got a lovely set of really useful, lean, focused stratagems that give you all of that fight phase control. I quite like that they've got that remarkable sort of fight phase dominance, but they don't really need like fight last to do it, because it's that doesn't feel very World Eaters to me, right? It's much more sort of we're just going to take you with us, man. We don't care. Like we're not going to sneak around or trick you or anything. We're just going to absolutely bat you if you come in.
This is something in which obviously when we're when I'm looking at a book or something, I'm really trying to make sure that the book plays in a way that is thematic to that army. And again, that's some of the feedback that I'll obviously give to Games Workshop, is making sure that, hey, does this kind of stratagem fit for that army? Does it play in the way that you would want it to? And really, the competitive way to play the army should also be the thematic way. There shouldn't be this difference between the two as well. So, and I think that, when that book's it come out and it's brilliant, the fact that it didn't even, for example, really need an FAQ or whatever, it's a tight book. And actually, it's a great way to go, hey, here's a condensed set of rules, but brilliant, really like eloquently done. And I think it's by the sounds of what they've said for 10th edition so far, if that's what they're going to be doing more of, then great. So they keep talking about like a simplified but yet simple. And I would say the World Eaters Codex is simplified, but it's not simple.
Completely.
And I think that's a really nice kind of touch if they continue to do that as they move into 10th edition.
Yeah, absolutely, and you'd hope that, I think that the bare bones and core of that will carry over as well. It doesn't feel like one that would need massive adjustment to fit the new set sort of design philosophy they've got. But I guess that's all for the future, so we'll see. But as I say, it reminds me to when the Gene Stealer Cults book came out. It was a similar thing. Although they're very different armies, it was a book that just sort of slid in the end under the radar. Right? No, it didn't really make a massive noise at the time because it was a well balanced book. Meant in the competitive sense, when it came out, it was just getting flattened by things, but it also meant it was one that you could really have fun with. You could get all sorts of stuff out of it. It had wonderful writing that felt very thematic, and we had this slightly strange contradiction, don't we, in the competitive community sometimes, where I think players like to say they care about balance, but then they also don't ever seem to want to pick up or do anything with anything vaguely balanced a lot of the time either, which is always a slightly strange conundrum players put themselves in, I think.
They don't care about balance.
No, I know.
they care about balance in the respect that it's not. And what they'll do is go, oh, I'll take the thing that's not balanced. So a bit of irony.
Weird,
it's quite funny you've said that, actually.
Yeah, it's just I notice it all the time because it's so loud in the conversation, but it means that sometimes when a book like this comes out, that is, as you say, it's not busted, it's not crazy, it's good, and it's got some really good things to it, but it's not going to just run every army in the game over on its way to a sort of an easy podium, right? So, but that means it doesn't make a splash in the same way with some people, and I think that's a shame, because I think we should celebrate a book like this that's interesting and has a lot going for it, and as you say, is a triumph of rules writing, because they've managed to make it interesting but focused, and also not have it wildly out of control at release. That's a really nice position to be in.
The other thing with this book as well is, I think, why maybe not everybody is jumping on it as a bandwagon is because it takes a fair bit of finesse to actually run it.
Yes. Well, this is why you're here.
I'm not taking 2 Tau bombers flying over your head and just dropping mortal wounds and then flying off the table, and then standing back 36 inches away and shooting you off so you can't really do anything. It's not an army that just stands there and just goes, oh, can you roll some 4-ups? No. Cool. Well, that's unlucky because I can. So, right, well, that's a good game then, isn't it? Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll just shoot with all this volume of attacks. Oh, I've just scored 15 secondary points in a turn because I killed 7 units. Cool, that was good. So there is an element of, I've got to use terrain, I've got to stand on cover, I've got to, use jackals to screen out terrain features because it's got windows in it and I can't anyway, we'll get into that. But I think there is an element there of, after 5 games of a tournament using this army, you've got a little bit of mental fatigues building up because you need to wrap and trap. You need to pile in the right way. You need to be super hot on, which unit you're fighting first with in terms of the order of selection, where you're charging, where you're consolidating into, what units you want to tag, which ones you don't. And this actually is we'll talk about this later, but I know there's a big debate, right, in the World Eaters book.
Oh yes, there is. Well, yeah, we'll head there. We'll head there in just a second. But as you say, there's something of a schism, a divide within the Legion that we'll address. But as you say, I think that's the thing with an army that is reliant on a couple of phases like that, and not, as you say, the let's face it, the overtly powerful phase that is range shooting, because that's always a strong phase in 40k, and armies that can rely very heavily on it sometimes can just blow their way through things without any issue, right? When you don't have guns, you are very much on a well-balanced terrain situation, you have to squeeze every drop out of your movement, out of combat, because good 40k boards don't give you the means to just creep up on someone and jump them with a whole army these days. That's not really how terrain sets work. So you have to be very, very careful. And so, yeah, I think for people who want to master movement in combat, this is a really fun place to be doing that at the moment. So let's move towards that then. Let's start thinking about key builds and some of the sort of major ways of playing World Eaters that have emerged since the book came out, because that, I think, can get us towards some of these sort of options or directions, if you like, that players can head in. What do you see the sort of main builds or options as being?
So I've taken two variations of lists, and you have to forgive me. I haven't, for the last kind of couple of, I suppose, months, my eye has been somewhere else rather than on.
I'll bet it has.
I've been looking, so maybe somewhere else than I have been checking out people's lists or whatever, and really knowing what they're taking for World Eaters. So I can only really talk from my experience. So I think a common list build typically rolls around the Lord Invocatus as your warlord, maybe 4 units of Khorne Berserkers, of 5, maybe a Rhino, maybe 2. Then as many 8-bound as you can cram in. So maybe 3 units of 4, something like that. 3 spawn, obviously. You wouldn't go anywhere without 3 spawn, apparently. And then it's just an extra bit of whatever you've got left points wise. Maybe it's some exalted 8-bound, potentially a demon prince. But I would say that first kind of stuff I've said there is, I would say, like 80% of a competitive build. And then you could throw in a couple of Armiger, Helverin, War Dog things from the Chaos Knights. You could chuck in, like you said, you could chuck in a Demon Prince, you could chuck in some Exalted 8-bound. Whatever you fit is your flavour in your play style. But really, if you're taking that kind of build in a certain skill level hands, whatever that player took, I think is irrelevant. I think the list is going to do what it's done based on that first 80%. If you were going to go 4-in-1, you're going to go 4-in-1 with it, regardless whether you took a Demon Prince, Exalted 8-bound, or, I think those arguments become a little bit, of a null point, because I think the army would have won or not anyway with the first 80% of that kind of list. So that's certainly, I would say, the most common build that I certainly saw in the early days of running that book. Would you agree with me on that, or have you seen something different?
I'd completely agree. I think that was identified early doors as sort of the most lean build to go, and obviously with the Lord Invocatus, with the pre-game move, I think that just opens up a lot of possibilities for early aggression and for getting stuck in that I think players felt was simply too good to pass up, right? And so I think that's where the pre-game move and being able to shove 8-bound a long way up the board and start things off nice and early is going to end games into the unwary and the unpracticed into it, right? I think it's people are just going to end up with too much in their face too early, but also I guess gives you movement potential and redeploying potential and all sorts of flexibilities that I think it's nice for the army to have. So yeah, I'd agree with you. It's got that little flex core, but then actually the nature of the book at the moment is that we've only got a few units to work with. So Berserkers 8-bound, Chaos Spawn obviously to go, and I don't know if Chaos Spawn even bleed. So I don't know if they even bleed, do they? But the Khorne will take it anyways, right? Okay, Chaos Spawn's dead. That's all right for me. We'll get rid of that. And they just help to rack up the blood tithe points. But yeah, that certainly seems to be the sort of central competitive build. But what I have seen, certainly from observation, is that World Eaters players themselves are a very passionate and creative bunch. There's a lot of very long-term fans of the Legion. They're one of those ones that get people very excited. And actually, even on the competitive circuit, there's been a lot of mucking about with other stuff. And in particular, there has been one very large angry dude who has been too cool to leave at home for a lot of players. And that of course is if you build around Angron. So what from your experience do you make of that, and how do you think you can get the most out of a sort of Angron-centric build?
Yeah, so when we first moved into this kind of Arcs of Omen book, I just finished playing Eldar at LVO and had a really good success with Eldar LVO, and then I did the
Yes.
same at Beachhead.
Yes, you did.
And I had
Yeah.
a very, very combat heavy build. It was, I think like 20 strike and scorpions, as much as I possibly could field of these crazy green little scorpions.
Yeah.
However, we had a team event coming up, and on my team, I've got Jack Downing, an amazing Dark Angel player, and he loves his Raven Wing, so I was never going to take him off that to play Blood Angels. Excuse me. We had a Ben Jones, and I can't take a Ben Jones off an Eldar faction, so
No, you
unfortunately,
can't, no.
I had to give up the Eldar, and I was looking at all the other book options. World Eaters were new, and I thought, cool, I'll take World Eaters. I think if there's anybody that in my team that could play World Eaters quickly, it's probably me.
Mhm.
Obviously, I've got an experience of Blood Angels. They're pretty much the same. So I felt like, okay, out of me and all of the players on my team, Michael was playing Guard. We had James Ramsey playing Custode. So I
Yes.
fell on World Eaters. And I was probably the weak link in the chain because we don't know what the army does. And I took it to an RTT, and I literally was painting the night before because obviously the models were only literally released a week before. So fortunately, I was already given an Angron from GW. So thank you to them for sending me a preview version for Angron.
Amazing.
I had him painted for a battle report. I had some Khorne Berserkers done already, so I was a little bit ahead of the game in regards to just having stuff painted. I didn't have to put a full shift in. I could only do I didn't have to take the week off work to get the army done, just a few evenings. So anyway, the first RTT I went to, I was scrapping for points, right? I had an Angron. I was like, he has to go in because I just need to fill these points up. I put some War Dogs in and obviously filled out the rest with 8-bound and everything else that I possibly could. And I played that tournament. I think I won the event, and that was at the Outpost. That was an awesome little RTT that they ran. And I think I scored something like 298 points or something over the 3 games.
Oh, damn.
It was quite big, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember having a long conversation with Ramsey. I was like, Ramsey, he was like, Lord Invocatus is great. And I was like, yeah, but you don't know what I know about Angron now. And I actually convinced him, and Ramsey's knowledge of the game is incredible. I've never really known anybody to quite have that same level of knowledge base around the game in lists. So we're having a good conversation about it. And after explaining what I feel like the benefits of Angron are versus the Invocatus, we were going to take him. We were going to take Angron to the team event.
Amazing.
However, we are playing on the UKTC terrain.
Yeah.
And on 2 of the maps, there is a zone where Angron will not be able to drop his model because his base is too big. And that's in the middle.
No.
Because of those little kind of...
Oh, because of the little dents thing. Oh, no, that's rubbish.
So that was why I didn't take him. And yeah, I think I could... It depends, right? Because on those missions, you think, well, if you need to go in the middle of the table and you can't, it's a bit of a... It's pretty bad, right?
It's a pain in the ass. Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
So, and then, we are starting to look at, some of the top factions at the time, Guard, Dark Angels. There's a few, AdMech lists knocking about, Tau, obviously. And I was thinking, I can't put myself in a team list and be a wink link, because what will happen is, if we go up against 3 gunline armies in the team matrix, I'm going to have literally 3 bad games.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be able to unpair myself out of 3 bad games. I might be able to not pair myself into 2, or I have to throw myself under the bus, which, I often had to do being a captain. But you don't want to be a weak link. So we decided, because of the terrain, I wasn't going to take him. And I really regret that decision.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I think Angron, in my eyes, is certainly... he really allows a skillful player with combat to really explore what their army can do.
Yeah.
And I feel like anybody could run some 8-bound with Invocatus, they pre-game move them, and do you know what? A good player just steps back a little bit and
That's
they go,
it.
cool.
That's it. I was going to say it's going to work sometimes, and then in the games it really matters. It's just not going to happen.
Well, for a start, it's only going to work 50% of the time.
Yeah.
And if you roll anything like me, you typically roll low. So I'll probably go first 33% of the time. So actually, my pre-game move's only really relative or significant 33% of the time. And then obviously a good player steps back and actually it's relevant 0% of the time.
Yeah.
So, however, when you look at Angron, so Angron was fantastic going second, like unbelievably strong going second, providing that you're not into like, horrendous. If they had like triple hammerhead in long strike, you think, okay, actually, yeah, he's gone. But if they've got a moderate amount of shooting, or you've got some big old blocking terrain, like proper line of sight terrain, going second super strong, because what this, fine gentleman can do from this fine establishry, if you go second and you bring him back in the last turn of the game, he can drop on an objective, he can take a banner down, he can get you behind enemy lines, he could make a charge, like, oh, you've stickied that objective, well, Angron's just going to jump on it now, end game.
Yeah.
And there's not really a whole, host you can do about it. So he's, takes away objective secured as well within 6 inches of him. He's very strong. So I really felt like what he also does means that because of his movement is so big, if you go first against World Eaters, you cannot put anything in the midfield because he will charge it.
Yeah.
And that then starts to not only start the trading game favorably in the World Eaters player's turn, but also what that does, depending on where you've positioned the rest of your models, but he consolidates, he stops you from falling back. Now you've got a very large problem straight in your lines. And this is where I felt like the World Eaters truly excel in the hands of a player that understands the combat phase. And you're looking at your pile-ins, your consolidations, what models you can get in range of, setting all these things up. I remember one game I played against a Necrons player, and he looked at me and he said, I can't shoot anything, can I? And I was like, no, everything's in combat. And in the stuff that's not in combat is within 6 inches of Angron's base. And I set it up. It's one combat phase. It was like one of the times I look back at, all the games of 40k I've played, and I think that was a bloody masterstroke what I did in that turn.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just set it up so well, and I was just like, it was like all my ducks were in a row, and I was like, this has gone so well. And I just said, unfortunately, you can't fall back with about 8 different units, and they all, unfortunately, are in combat with one of mine, and they're not going to have a good day in a moment when we get to your fight phase.
Yeah.
And he looked at me like, oh no, what have I done? I was like, yeah. So,
it's so
anyway,
good.
Yeah, so I think Angron is fantastic. And going forward, I would not leave him at home.
Yeah. No, really I think that's awesome, and I think there's a whole bunch of things that you highlight there that I think make him really worth looking at. As you said, the speed is remarkable. Like there's nothing as big and as killy as him that moves as quickly as that and can fly. It's a remarkable reach that he's got. That, as you say, in terms of board control, that's a phenomenal tool to have. And as you say, as long as you can tuck him somewhere, or there's not so many guns that he's just going to die instantly, then that's remarkable. The trapping aura, again, used well, and I think it's the same with Scarbrand, right? Where a lot of people bring Scarbrand, but only the very best really make him sing. But if you can get him in the wrong places, it's game ending. It's just game ending. There's no way around it. Like you get those trapping auras into the wrong places, and like your poor Necron friend, it's just game over. But it does require some finesse to use. And I think to have an asset of that size and that poses that much danger, that just keeps coming back or can come back, and he can redeploy, you can get him where he needs to be. If one flank's caving, he can go shore that up. As you say, end game shenanigans. It's remarkable.
Yeah, it's one of those things that with him, I think when I used him, I don't even know if I even brought him back that often. It just was a case of, I think that's like a gimmick or a nice to have, but it's not like the essential part of it. I mean, we did a stream game once, and we were just like, right, how many times can we bring him back just for a joke? But I don't think me or Michael would have played that way if we weren't just trying to bring him back as many times as we could. But if you pull off those moves with an army like that, your opponent looks at you and they go, I can't do anything, but fair play. You played that you just played a play. Like, that was a big brain play. And it's not like, oh, you've dropped a Kazakin bomb in. Oh, and you rolled loads of fives. Oh, okay, so you've done 18 mortal wounds to my army. Right. Where was the skill in that? Well, no, there wasn't any. It would be a little bit like, entering a painting competition and, you just put this paint in the airbrush and your model just came out done. It'd be like, you want to see the blends, you want to see the edge highlights, and you want to see the time staking amount of hours that were, to put into these incredible miniatures. And I think it's like in any form of competition. You don't like, when I used to compete in bodybuilding, if you just managed to get your spray tan done so well that they, for example, put all the lines in that you were meant to have and stepped on stage, you're like, well, no, I want to see the hard work and dedication that's gone into that. And actually, if I get beaten by, somebody that's in better condition, got more muscle, posed better, you shake their hand, you go, fair play, you absolutely smashed it. I deserve to come where I did because you've brought something really quite unique and special. And this is what I love about the game so much is when we have these armies that have this option to go, if I do A, B, C, followed by D, E, F, G, and then I get a sprinkle of that in, and then also if this happens and I manage to get this done, we're in a strong position. Your opponent goes, fair play. That was a great move. I love it. I didn't see that one coming. Not just, oh, you rolled really well and I'm dead. Cool, that was fun. Cool, next game then, should we get a drink? So very different kind of, I suppose, interaction at the table.
Completely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, I suppose there's a slight irony in it because it is Angron, but I like that it sounds like he sort of rewards patience and finesse, neither of which he's a massive fan of, but it sounds like that's very much the way to actually squeeze the most out of him. So no, that's really exciting. And I think I played against Angron when the book first came out, a local friend of ours, not a particularly competitive player, but I was definitely struck by the potential there. And once you've seen him move, once you've seen how far he can go a couple of times, you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. There's something very scary here. As far as the current crop of units goes, what other kind of favourites do you have, and how do you kind of squeeze the most out of them? What are the other sort of supporting characters in this book as you see it?
So I definitely think the Lord Invocator still goes in the list. I think the fact that he can fly just stops him getting moved. Yeah, the movement, the fly, the fact that he can turn off invuns, he's quite good. For his points, maybe a little bit expensive without getting the benefits of that warlord trait, but on the whole, a decent, well-rounded unit. I think you could tool up a demon prince. Okay, the master execution is a nice little trading piece for whatever his points is. It's pretty cheap and cheerful.
He's very cheap, isn't he? Yeah, he's great.
But I know that not many people like the Exalted 8-bound. And I was running 3 units of 3 in all of those tournaments I ran, and what I found them to be so good at is they're slightly more durable.
Yeah,
but they typically are 1 or 2 of these guys left are still a big problem for your opponent. They could easily run into an Armiger, take it down. They can blow up a Rhino. And what I found them doing was just edging their way over across the table. And obviously, because they don't have the core keyword, they don't get the benefits of the +2 move. You can't use some of the stratagems on them, so they're a little bit, redundant. You can't fight them on death and things. But I did find them to be quite a good little unit. And I still would take some, I think, whether it's 2 units of 3 or something. I just found on our Vanguard Tactics Academy, we talk a lot about in the classes that we teach at the LVO, LGT, and such like. We talk about this objective that we have is our non-negotiable, the objective that you never give up. And I'd happily put a very cheap. I don't know what their points are off the top of my head, but they're fairly inexpensive, and I feel like 3 of these, they'll hunker an objective down pretty well. You can't charge it positioned properly with most units anyway that want to come in from deep strike and harass an objective. They don't have the option. They won't be shot indirectly off it. So actually, they're quite a good little sort of non-negotiable objective holder. And then we talk about like a fortify objective. Again, they're fantastic in that role because they don't need to move too far. They need to move onto it. And again, they just need to basically bully anything that comes close to it, really. So again, your 8-bound are moving forward. Your exalted 8-bound can be in this kind of more defensive role as a sort of counter punch. And I really find them effective where, especially if I've got like 5 Khorne Berserkers in front of them. So if you do charge me, I fart on death. And these guys are just tucked behind to then counter punch anything that also came close as well. So for me, the Exalted 8-bound were a really nice touch point. They don't need any, and because you can leave them on their own, they don't need any support. They hit slightly more efficiently. They don't need the support of rerolls and things anyway. They're essentially, better than Custody kind of models. So in combat, so they don't need the support, which is good. They're good in these little objectives that might be on the corners, on the edges, or the flanks of the table. They're brilliant, in that role, and I think they're an underutilized asset. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's a dream for a player having those sort of plug-in units that are just they'll just manage things. If you can get them in the right places, they don't need investment, they don't need heavy synergy or stratagem support, etc., etc., etc. As long as you use them and
good
put them in
data
the right
sheet.
places. Yeah, exactly that. And I think it does feel like for World Eaters, you want to sort of lock down the board and boss the primary, and having some sort of, as you say, supporting units to sort of continue that good work as other stuff pushes forward is really, really useful. So that's a really interesting use to hear of them. I guess I was curious in terms of the one of the other trends I've seen people is with the plugging in of the Chaos Knights, right? It seems like it's shooty armigers is something people enjoy running with them, and I guess I was curious what you think the sort of what it is people are looking to do there, what you're hoping to gain, and whether you think it sort of helps the army to function, or whether it's sort of just a fad that people will sort of move on from.
So they do a couple of things. They're able to make a kill in a turn that isn't obviously the combat phase.
Yeah.
Which does mean, providing you're killing stuff, you're going to get blood tithe points.
Right. Yes, of course. Yeah.
So they can, let's say they pop a rhino, cool. That's a couple of blood tithe points for you. Great. So they can contribute to blood tithe points in another phase of the game. It stops your opponent from having free reign of just, like if you were to put a model 9 inches away from the corner of a tabletop to screen out like a deep strike or something, or a strategic reserve, it stops your opponent from just like basically conga lying around the table because you've got this massive threat. And if they put 5 infiltrators out in the middle of nowhere, then these guys will pick them up. So it does stop a little bit. It does stop a bit of board control from your opponent, allowing you to deep strike, strat reserve, or do whatever else you kind of want to. So, there's those aspects to it. Also, it does help you pop transports. You don't want to necessarily put a unit of 8-bound to kill a rhino. Then the stuff that gets out of the rhino kills you. That's not fun. So it can pop a unit of, I don't know, let's say there was, I can't even think of a unit that would go in a rhino, right? Like, I don't know, Sacrosancts or something, right?
It's like sisters.
Yeah, something along those lines. So can help, manage those sort of units. Maybe there's a screening unit of 10 guardsmen. It picks them up so then the people can charge through it and hit the tank. So is it a fad? Not necessarily. I think it does have some utility. I think it does. Like I said, I certainly used 2 in that first tournament. They're great at just sitting on your backfield objective. Cool. So they sit there. They can contribute to the game. And I believe their objective's secured, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, which is obviously great to have. OBSEC counters 5. Like, that's just tasty. That's just useful.
Yeah. Again, it's adding more OBSEC into an already heavy OBSEC army. So great.
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And as I say, I think it keeps opponents honest. It gives you means to sort of build up those blood tithe points if the opponent's not being obliging and coming to play in the middle. So yeah, that makes lots of sense. I can definitely see why people have headed in that direction. I guess a sensible place to end, Steve, is probably in thinking about that exact system, the blood tithe system, which obviously you've been able to play some games with it. And I guess I'm curious of the various different sort of buy-in. This was I thought this was a really exciting bit of rules writing, by the way. It was like a simple, but again, quite dynamic system, lots of different, buying in with an extra resource, and buying some really powerful tools for the army. What do you think that some of the sort of key blood tithe options have ended up being? What is it that World Eaters players do you think can use from that list to get the most out of the army?
So this will depend on whether you've taken Angron or not.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and it also depends if you're going first or second.
Mm.
So, 6+ Feel No Pain is great. It's fantastic if you're going second as well. As soon as you can get that in, brilliant. It will then... So that typically is one I'd normally start with, especially if they've got a lot of ranged fire. Yeah, 6+ Feel No Pain is typically what I want. Now, failing that, the next one after that would be +1 to charge. So
Yeah.
if I feel like my opponents maybe stretch themselves a little bit too far turn one, and I'm going second, cool, I'm going to try and get +1 to charge on, because then I can start guaranteeing these charges. Having extra charge basically gives me, essentially more piling, gets me in range of Angron. Also taking Angron means I can have full chapter master rerolls. That's great. I've also got reroll ones as an option.
Yeah.
So therefore I don't need +1 to hit so much. Whereas with Lord Invocatus, you need +1 to hit to actually make those Khorne Berserkers do anything decent. So I would say if you haven't gone Angron, you're probably looking for the... you should have the speed because you've got the pre-game move, even if it's like sticking forward in a bit of terrain or something. So maybe you don't need a +1 charge. You certainly don't need +1 charge because you won't have so much in Deep Strike, because obviously Angron won't be coming back to life. So I think for me, if you've got Angron on the table, 6+ Feel No Pain, +1 to charge is where you want to start with. And then, pick your poison, whether it's the equivalent of, hitting on a 6 auto wounds, if it's the, +1 to hit, or whatever kind of flavor exploding 6s. Cool. Any of those are great, really. But you don't need any of those. The army's killy enough without them.
Exactly.
But then if you've got Lord Invocatus, then get that +1 to hit. That's the first one you really want. And then again, after that, maybe some defense, or, because you... like we teach on the academy, we talk about really going into depth into like looking at your army list and writing out like a SWOT analysis. In a big weakness of the army is failing charges. Fail a charge, you're out in the open, you're going to die. One opportunity there is to use that blood tithe point to make those charges a little bit more successful. So I think that's certainly a nice little way to go. Also, it depends whether you've taken like a Master Executioner with the ability to give you, so every 6 to hit auto wounds, that's a command ability you could put on a unit. So if you've taken that Relic, then you won't need necessarily that blood tithe. So again, you can spend a CP instead and use those resources. So, but yeah, I think for me, +1 to charge, because 8s are always better.
Then you're a Blood Angel, right? Yeah.
And you're just looking for 8s, it's Khorne's number. You just need 8s. So you're looking for... you get +1 charge, and then of course, that, like we said, the 6+ Feel No Pain is and then the +1 to hit are typically the 3 I would aim to go for as quickly as I could. Yeah,
very nice. There you go, people. You want the 6+++. Just like the show. Yeah. That's what you're after. That's what you need. And I think I completely agree with you that like as cool as the combat bits in that table were, it's like I'm looking at these sheets, and if they go into the right things, they're just going to roll over those things anyway. So it's kind of I think there's certainly some tech in there, as you say, with auto winning can get you around some targets. Yeah.
If you're having to, it's again something I always sort of teach as well. It's focusing on looking at your units and thinking, do I need to amplify the effect that this unit should already do? Or do I need to mitigate some of those weaknesses? And I would normally say resources come into mitigating weaknesses rather than amplifying, effects. It does two things. It keeps me in control of the game. It allows me to set the tempo of the game. It allows me to score points when I want to score them, rather than relying on, I can essentially mitigate dice rolls. So much. It also gives my opponent a better game as well, because we're going to keep this game going for longer for both of us. It's going to be a tighter, closer game, rather than, oh great, I did this wombo combo and I did A, B, C, and all of a sudden you're tabled, or I failed to do A, B, C, so now I'm just it's game over. That's not a great interaction from either of us. We want a good close game where we finish that and you go, oh, that was the best, that's the hardest game I've had to play in ages. That's amazing. That's exactly the response I want. Not,
Yeah.
oh, this game was done in 20 minutes. Should we go to the bar? Like, no,
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for this. So, again, yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's great. As I said, it feels like a book that offers that. It's a story. There was a lad at the RTT I was at on Saturday. He had a bunch of big chaos nights. Played against a World Eaters guy. Everything ran into everything. It was just a great big carnage of violence in the middle. Everything's chopping everything up, and they just look like they're having the absolute best time. And I think there's something in combat armies for me that do that. I always think combat armies bring that kind of engagement and interaction. But yeah, I think it looks like a really fun time to play World Eaters, isn't it? And then see what the new edition brings for them. I guess. Do you have any kind of concluding thoughts on the army before we wrap up here, Steve?
Not really. Aside from a true World Eaters player, you're going to take the Betrayer.
Oh, okay.
Anytime I see the Betrayer, I'm like, yeah, fair play. Yeah. That's sick.
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite heresy books is Betrayer. And Khan the Betrayer is
classic.
He's such a troubled guy. He's trying to keep his legion together. His dad is just losing his mind, and I'm not. I hate Angron, honestly.
Yeah,
like the book.
Yeah,
he's such a moron. Anyway, but Betrayer, honestly, the guy he's just trying to hold it all together for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's just this real kind of sob story, really. And
yeah.
All his brothers are just losing their minds as well, and he's just trying to keep it all together. It kind of reminds me of me a little bit. just trying to keep it together.
You empathise with Khan the Betrayer. That's a new one.
I do. I feel like we've got a lot in common. And he's got this, like, the relationship with him and his like the word bearers. I can't remember, like, he's like the first demon prince. He's like a Gore Vorbak, like the leader of them.
Oh,
yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, like their relationship is awesome. If you haven't read Betrayer, go and listen to it, because the ending of Betrayer is just so good. He gets Erebus, who everybody just hates. I don't know anybody that likes Erebus, and if you do like we can't be friends.
He's not popular, is Erebus?
No, if you're listening to this and go, oh yeah, but Erebus, no, we can't be friends. Okay, I'm laying it down right now.
A man's got to have a go.
Yeah, you can take it up with me on Instagram if you want, but there we go. The fact that he gets him in the fighting pit and he smashes him time after time, picks him back up, and he's like, just wants to pick him up so he can smash him again. It's just so good. Read that story. So that's my final thoughts.
No, that's a great place to end, and absolutely go and listen to it or read Betrayer, guys. So they've got some really compelling lore. Khan the model is an awesome model and absolutely slaps. So yeah, give him a run out if you're a World Eaters player. I said the true World Eaters players run whatever the hell they like anyway, right? They're not going to be stopped by something like what they're supposed to take anytime soon. So brilliant, Steve. Thank you. That was loads of fun, really informative and really really useful. So do you have any plugs that you'd like to make, sort of wrap up the show? Anything you'd like to promote while you're here?
Yeah, I would, if you don't mind. And this is something that I would. So obviously, as you probably are well aware, 10th edition is on the way. This is something that I'm very, very excited about. I really am. I know it's going to be absolutely awesome. So we're going to be at Vanguard Tactics. We're going to be putting on 3 new courses. Like, we've had a lot of questions about the Academy. When's our next Academy launch? Obviously, I had to sit and wait because I didn't want to run an Academy launch through this kind of interim period. I didn't want to, if people sign up for a 9th edition Academy, this get announced. So I've had to wait, obviously, because I wanted to make sure we release the next Academy intake with 10th edition. Would be awesome. So we're going to run 3 programs. One of them is basically what we call our basic training. So if you've never played Warhammer 40k before and you want to learn 10th edition, then this course is going to be perfect for you. So that's our basic training course. But then we also have, which I think will be most relevant to your listeners, which will be our accelerator program. And our accelerator program is going to be essentially 7 to 8 days of education, video format. We're also going to do live support every single day for the people that sign up early, is like to kind of kickstart the program. and get your sort of name down early on the sheet for it. And this accelerator program is going to help you seamlessly transition from 9th to 10th. So it's going to teach you everything you need to know about all the different nuances of the game, and it's going to help you get there. And then obviously that will lead into an academy if people want to join and get that full academy experience that you might be aware of, which goes over for 16 weeks, where we cover every single phase of the game and nuance. So to really help people feel confident so that they can play anytime, anywhere, and against anyone. So if you want to find out any more about any of those courses, get your name on the waiting list, then all you need to do is head over to www.vanguardtactics.com/10th, so 10th. If you go there, just pop your email address in and you'll be on the waiting list to find out more about, the courses. You can signal your interest in, what you're looking for. But it's no like you have to buy anything. It's just, hey, here's my name and my email address. So when you release your courses, Steve, I'll be first to hear about it. Okay, and that's the place to go, basically. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And just to add my own little Vanguard Academy story on the end there. One of my own teammates was an Academy graduate, and I think I played him in either his first or second actual game since sort of doing the Academy, and smashed me. And it was his first or second game in. I was like doing an intro game, get a sense of how is he, how's he doing. You never know when someone like that, right? So I but turned up and just wonderful. He's one of my very best 40k friends, wonderful player, and the academy had set him right up out the gate. He was fantastic. We had a wonderful game, and he was just so on point, so sharp already. So whatever you're doing there, Steve, it works, and it works well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you so much for your time, Steve. Hopefully we'll chat again soon. Really excited to keep chatting with all you Vanguard lads, and I'm really excited to see what you do in 10th edition. I'm sure it's a very busy and very exciting time for you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's been great chat.
No problem at all. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.